Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Retired College Athletes, a platform designed to inspire and inform current and former athletes through stories and advice from retired college athletes. I'm Sydney, and I'm so glad you're here because today we're talking about our bodies after sport, our health after sport, and how it can be so hard to navigate that season of life. I sat down with dietitian Katie Spada on my podcast, Retired College Athletes. If you don't know, we have a podcast, so I'll link that down below. She's episode 47, and just chatted all about how to fuel yourself as a former athlete, all the body changes that we have, self-worth and how we view ourselves after college athletics and all of that. So let's go ahead and hop into today's video. It's a little different than our other ones. I'll be bringing clips from the podcast episode, but I hope you guys enjoy it. So if you're anything like me, once I finished my college athletic career, I was like, I want to keep my athletic body. So I'm going to just continue to work out and replicate these college, workouts. Well, the biggest issue with that is that college workouts are like 4 hours a day. So I literally would go to the gym and throughout the day spend roughly 4 hours in there. Maybe in the morning it was 2 hours, like doing cardio and lifting, and then I'd head to a yoga class, and then I'd go to a bar, and before I knew it, I had spent the majority of my day working out. Well, that's not ideal. The other issue with that was that I was also under eating. I just was like, if I just eat less calories and work out a lot, like I should just be able to maintain my body. And it worked for a period of time, like, crazy diets too. But after that, I had a lot of issues. I ended up messing with my metabolism to the point where I had huge cortisol issues, which is like a stress hormone. And my body was like crying out for help. It was shutting down and it was like, listen, you need to stop doing this to us. We worked so hard for you, us, my body. My body was like, you need to stop doing this to me. I've worked so hard for you and just treat me well. And to be honest, I didn't know how to do that because I had this vision of what I should look like. Well, in this episode with Katie Spada on the podcast, we talked a lot about that. So I'm going to go ahead and roll a clip of her talking about why undereating and overexercising can be so dangerous.
I was tracking all of my calories. I was not eating carbs. I was doing extra workouts on top of practice. Yeah, and we were practicing a minimum of 4 hours a day. The whole 20-hour-a-week thing, no, that's not a thing.
Yeah, what is that?
It's
that
a
does not exist.
No.
Yeah.
It does not. So that was kind of where I found myself, and I was struggling with shin splints, and I was a swimmer. Why would I have shin splints as a swimmer?
What in the world?
Right. And so my body was literally breaking down underneath me because I was not fueling it well and I was not resting it. And, it was fighting back. And so I was not seeing the results I wanted. I was getting more frustrated, trying harder, doing the things I thought I should be doing. I always thought I was doing what was best for me because I didn't know. And my body just rebelled. It rebelled hard.
In addition to that, Katie talked about how our bodies can go through a second puberty. And I thought it was so interesting. It was the first time where I was like, yes, that's exactly what it is. And so let's hear what she had to say about that.
I think people don't realize that it's not that something that you're doing something, wrong, but like your body's actually physiologically rebelling with cortisol. A lot of former athletes have thyroid issues now because your thyroid has become so burned out. The metabolism, it does lower out of survival. So my advice for athletes who find themselves struggling with this is a couple of things, and it may not be the advice that they're hoping to hear. But the first is that change is okay. And I say that because we expect ourselves to find this body at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 at our, prime of our career, of our, life basically, and to have that body all the way up until we're like 50, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, I was a college athlete, so I still need to look like a college athlete. And I talk about this a lot where there is no look. Our society implements that. But to give yourself the space for your body to adapt and to change, to recognize that you're most likely going to go through what I like to call like a second puberty, because you've gone from, right? I know.
Yeah,
you're like, yes.
Totally. I'm like lighting up. I'm like, yes.
That is exactly what happens. I mean, we go into college, like you said, like some sort of change is usually asked of you, and your body then changes and you're going through this intense training, and you're also at this pivotal point of just being a human, because even if you weren't an athlete, your body would change from 18 to 22. You're becoming an adult.
Mm-hmm.
I also, my day job is as a pediatric dietitian, and so I talk a lot about the growth that happens in that time period.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of masked because we're going through this intense training, and then you stop and your body's like, whoa, oh my gosh, I can breathe. And you go through this almost second puberty to refigure out what it's like to live, instead of at a stress level of 100, to like maybe bring it down to like 50. And we're trying to still live at 100 and your body's fighting back.
For me, after college athletics, striving after my college body was really something about just wanting to not be the athlete that fell off. But to be honest, if I think back to my just how healthy I was in college or what I looked like in college, while I looked fit, I was actually pretty sick. I was always in the nurse's office getting a Z-Pack because I had a sinus infection, because my body just really was run down. It didn't have the nutrients it needed. I wasn't eating that great in the sense of like eating enough calories to fuel myself. And so I was actually pretty sick. So kind of trying to strive after that version of myself was going to put my health at greater risk. I was going to continue to get sick. I was going to continue to have issues with my health. And that's just something that wasn't registering for me. Just because you look healthy in a season does not mean that you are actually healthy. Those are two different things. And now, being, years removed from college athletics, I feel like I am significantly healthier. Do I look the same? No. I mean, I don't play anymore, but I am significantly healthier and happier in general. And Katie and I definitely spoke about that.
I think the biggest thing is there's this fear of weight gain, and that's not always what happens. And so I think not always framing it as like, if I stop doing this, I'm going to gain weight. If I stop doing this, my body's going to feel better. Because oftentimes, like I always say, and I talk about this a lot with my story, I feel better in my body now than I ever did as an athlete. And I think a lot of people don't think that's possible, but they don't give themselves the opportunity to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the third thing would be, think about the long game. And this is something I wish I had known, was the potential damage of under eating and overworking out. It's not just how you look, it's your bone health, it's your reproductive health, it's your mental health as well, it's your gut microbiome, it's your immune system. All of these things are impacted by prolonging the under eating and overworking out, that sometimes we can't fix. Bone mineral density is pretty much capped when you meet your mid 20s. And so if you're not able to build that up, or you've impacted that in some way, we're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I wish I had known. And so any athlete who might be questioning, like, am I struggling with this? Because that's the other thing. Oftentimes they don't realize that they are under eating and overworking out, because it still feels like less in comparison to what we did.
Of course.
Um, and so, recognizing that, there are potential long-term consequences of doing this. And I wish I had known that 5-10 years ago.
And then finally, we talked a little bit about why, outside of just wanting to look a certain way, we go after trying to make our bodies stay the same, or, going after our college athletic bodies even after we're done. And really it just comes down to a conversation on self-worth.
So I think one of the biggest things is that we often, as athletes, we often put our worth so much into our appearance. And oftentimes why we're trying to strive for changing our appearance is we're seeking more worth or more acceptance. And so that really comes from, that's the mindset piece, recognizing that your worth is not in your body, which is hard to separate as an athlete, because our body is what allowed us to compete. It's what gave us praise. You can only shoot a basket or swim a lap or do whatever because of your body. And so, when you're realizing that your smallest or your thinnest or your fittest, is actually not your healthiest, it's almost like giving yourself the space to mourn that body, because it's kind of like a loss of a body, and allowing yourself to move into this new space. I think that's one of the biggest things, is when I tell my former athletes, you're allowed to be sad about that and then move towards this new place. It's almost like, okay, I can, kind of move from that.
That's good stuff from Katie. I mean, it's true. And I think that we can all learn from this in the sense of here's a dietitian telling us exactly what she knows in terms of why this happens. But then also just think about your own personal experience with your body in college athletics. I think some of this will hit home for you. I think some of it will make sense to you. And hopefully it'll help you have better informed decisions as you are fueling yourself after college sports, as you are working out after college sports, just having a better form of intentions behind what you're doing. But with that said, that is all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, this video. I enjoyed making it. It's a little different than what we usually do here, but I think I'm going to be pulling in more podcast content over to YouTube because we just have some gems over there. Also, if you're not following us on our podcast, it's linked down below. It's played everywhere that you can play a podcast, so I'll just give you a link down below. Please feel free to subscribe over there. Again, episodes go out every Monday and Thursday on the podcast, so definitely check us out. But with that said, if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, and if you want to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button, like button, and the bell notification so that you don't miss a video from me. I post here on YouTube every Thursday, and it's content very similar to this. So if you like this, you're going to get a lot more of this in the coming weeks. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next week.